guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about selective mutism. Growing up, I struggled with selective mutism until I was about 14 years old, and I actually never went to the doctor about it until I was like 12 because my parents didn't really see it as a problem. They just thought I was really shy, and then I was showing signs of a lot of anxiety, so that's when I went to the doctor and then I got diagnosed. My current diagnoses are OCD, ADHD, autism, and BPD. And in this video, I'm basically going to be covering what is selective mutism and how it affected my life. And that is the intro. Let's get started. What is selective mutism? Selective mutism is a severe anxiety disorder that basically you have so much anxiety that you physically feel like you can't speak. For most people, you have a fear of being heard and a fear of speaking. Most people that have selective mutism also have social anxiety. And personally for me, I had social anxiety, but my social anxiety was due to the fact I had selective mutism. I did not have selective mutism because of social anxiety in my case. I had social anxiety because I had selective mutism. And if you have selective mutism, basically it has to interfere with daily life. So I would go through like school or whatever, and it impacted my daily life every day. It interfered with my life. For pretty much everyone with selective mutism, it heavily interferes with their life, because if they're not in a situation where they feel safe, comfortable, whatever, they cannot speak, and that is literally torture. It is. It sucks. Talking just feels impossible, and people from the outside perspective might not see it that way, but from the inside perspective, it feels like you physically cannot talk. And people with selective mutism tend to avoid situations where speaking is required. I was like that, so I know that's true for most people, because the internet also agrees that most people avoid situations where they talk because they feel like they can't. So it only makes sense to avoid those situations. The majority of people with selective mutism have situations where they can talk. Like if they're at home, a lot of the time people with selective mutism, it doesn't affect them when they're at home. A common place where selective mutism would interfere with their life is in school or in public. But at home, most people with selective mutism can talk at a normal volume and can talk pretty much whatever, if that makes sense. Usually selective mutism begins in childhood, and the cause is not always clear, but it is associated with anxiety. Now we're going to talk about my experience. Growing up with selective mutism was very difficult. I felt like I physically couldn't speak, and it was awful. I would go to school and not be able to talk, and people would make fun of me. They would laugh at me because I wouldn't talk, but that just gave me more anxiety and made me not want to talk even more. And with school, teachers would like pick on me and try to call on me in class so I would talk, but they didn't understand or know what I was going through. No one understood what was going on. My parents didn't understand. They just thought I was being shy and that I could talk and that it was just me not wanting to, but I physically felt like I couldn't do it, and they didn't see that because they didn't know, because I didn't get diagnosed until I was like 12, because they just thought I was shy. And then at school, my teacher in grade 8, she thought that I had a lot of anxiety and I got diagnosed. So yeah, most teachers didn't notice that it was an actual problem. The only teacher that did do that was my grade 8 teacher, and she got everything started for me to get help. In the past, teachers would get really upset with me for not talking, and with the fact I had autism as well, they didn't know that either. And like things like the smallest things would just put me into a meltdown because I would cry if the seating plan was changed, things like that. So they didn't understand. I would literally get in trouble for not talking. People usually get in trouble for talking. I would get in trouble for not talking. And like when they would do reading, you know, when you go into the hallway and read a story to check your comprehension stuff, I would avoid that at all costs. And yeah, I wanted to talk. I wanted to be able to talk like everyone else. I just felt like I couldn't, and I didn't know why, especially growing up without a diagnosis until I was a bit older. I didn't know why I couldn't talk, and I didn't understand why it was so difficult for me. I was frustrated with myself. Not only were teachers frustrated with me, I was frustrated with myself as well. And at this point in my life, if I could have changed one thing about myself at that point in my life, it would have been my personality. I hated my personality because I felt like, I don't know how to explain it, but I hated who I was. Not only what I looked like, but I hated who I was on the inside as well. And my anxiety was like 10 out of 10 all day, every day at school. At home, I was pretty much fine, but at school or in like public, I just felt like I couldn't do it, and I didn't know why. I just wanted to be like everyone else and be able to do things like everyone else, even though I physically felt like I couldn't. Selective mutism is one of the hardest things I've ever overcome because the anxiety is so high with speaking that it's almost, it feels safer to just not speak. I had a YouTube channel during this time. I don't use that channel anymore. Please do not go find it. It's embarrassing. But I had a YouTube channel at that time as well. And I felt comfortable on my YouTube channel, and it felt like that was the only place where I could talk to other people and feel safe. So I was basically just using that as an outlet because I wanted to talk to people, but I just couldn't, and I didn't know why. After a while, when I was 14, I said my first few words to someone in public, and that was the scariest thing I've ever done. It was terrifying, but I did it, and now I am able to talk to most people most of the time. I still sometimes go nonverbal, but it's not as often, and it's not as big of a deal because it's not as often. So that's good. Anyways, I'm not going to go into more depth because it's pretty much the same thing over and over again in different situations. I don't know how else to simply put it because my camera's also gonna die, and selective mutism was hard. It took away a lot of my life growing up, and the fact that I'm also autistic, I feel like I've missed out on a lot of things, but it's okay. And I can talk now, and that's okay. That's good. I like talking now. I talk too much now. If you struggle with selective mutism, I hope this helped you feel less alone, and I hope it gives you hope that it can get better, because it really can. I'm still struggling a lot with my mental health, but selective mutism, I can proudly say I don't struggle with it as much anymore, and I hope that gives you hope that you can overcome it too, even though it was like legitimately the hardest thing I've ever done. Like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Obviously you don't have to do that, but I really appreciate when you do, and you can go follow my social media. It is linked in the description box below, and obviously you don't have to do that either. I just really appreciate when you do. That is it. That is all. Bye guys.